Hello, Coach Magazine Global audience. We are here with our 16th guest, Sam Thiara from Canada. I will introduce him at the beginning, as always. Sam is a speaker, storyteller, author, coach, mentor, entrepreneur, educator, and dedicated to community development. There are five areas that he identifies as his foundation: servant leadership, story sharing, activator and igniter, champion and enabler, and community do gooder. His passion is to help individuals, groups, and organizations. This also extends to the community where he enjoys and participates in community development, an engagement where he has mentored, coached hundreds of individuals, and worked with 50 plus nonprofits over the last 25 years. He has spent the last 19 plus years at the BD School of Business as a lecturer, administrator, and on the Alumni Association Board. For the last 20 plus years, he has been involved with helping people build on their autobiographies. This has become the foundation for the building of Gradus One, which recently merged with League of Innovators, an organization to help high school, post-secondary, recent graduates in their career journey. Storytelling is a cornerstone of his background. Whether as an author or speaking at a conference, he has had a very rich, reflective life and enjoys sharing his experiences. He is called upon by organizations and schools to do keynotes, workshops, or panel facilitation. This exposure has enabled him to speak regionally, nationally, and internationally. His goal is to engage individuals in their personal and professional development and was recognized by the Governor General of Canada with the Canadian Sovereign's Volunteer Medal and the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal. He also had two TEDx talks, two books, the latest book called Lost and Found, published in 2019. He is also working on a new book. Welcome, Sam. How are you today?
Well, thank you for having me here. And I always say it's a lot easier if you just introduce me as Sam, so there's not this high expectation by your audience of a really engaging talk, and then I can earn it.
No, I want my audience to know about you a little bit at the beginning so they can take their books and pens, take notes from the beginning. And also, I would like to encourage our audience to subscribe if they're not already for our channel, Coach Magazine Global YouTube channel, LinkedIn, Instagram accounts. For further guests and further talks like this, we would like you to encourage also to become a member of our website to read our Coach Magazine that we publish 3 monthly, and we have so valuable writers there too. So here goes my first question. Could you please tell us more about your journey and how you evolved into a speaker, storyteller, author, coach, and mentor with a focus on community development, especially? What inspired you to pursue these roles?
I think the best way for me to describe it is I was on a traditional corporate pathway, as many people go, because what I found is that you just do what is natural, what makes sense, what is safe, what is common. And I just remember that I graduated from university and I just, it's one of those things of you're like, okay, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to get my job. And the more jobs I applied for, the more rejections I got. And the realization is the fact that I wasn't ready. I was not prepared. My first job after 86 rejection letters from companies who said we don't have a job for you was to be a janitor, mopping floors, emptying rubbish bins in a hospital. Now, you think to yourself, okay, I went and got my degree and I did all of this work, but this isn't what I was meant to do. But I did the job and I learned three valuable life lessons that actually carries me to today. The first lesson, my father said, I don't care what you do, you just have to do the best job possible, whether that is a scientist, whether that's a lecturer, whether that's a janitor, but you have to do the best job. Your reputation is on the line. And that carries me to today. Second valuable lesson. There were times I would get on the elevator with nurses, doctors, and administrators, and, I'm not a professional, so I was ignored. I know what this feels like. As a result, I talk to anyone and everybody because we all have a story to share. And the third valuable lesson is in anything we do, there is learning, and we can look at it as poor me, or, this is, I'm not enjoying this, or what am I learning from this that's going to carry me forward? So those three lessons. Now, it wasn't easy in the beginning because, you're like, okay, I'm doing this janitor job, but I know that there's a better future. So there was always this within me, but there's a lot of hard work we need to do as individuals to make ourselves continually grow, continually be better. And eventually, I did land a corporate job after. And you know what? That corporate job felt like a suit that didn't fit. That suit is a career. I could do the job, it just wasn't me. And Seda, I think the best way for me to describe it is the moment I stopped just looking at what I wanted to do and started focusing on, well, who am I? That's when clarity started to emerge. And that enabled me to then go down a pathway. And as you mentioned, there are five things that guide me, and of which I've just changed one last week. So, servant leadership, story sharing, activator igniter, champion enabler, and a community do gooder. But you know what? That job I was doing hit 0 out of 5. I went in another direction that actually hit 5 out of 5, and that provided me the clarity. And I've always stuck to that. And anything and everything I do has to hit 5 out of 5. Now, I just recently changed one of the five things that you mentioned earlier. Servant leadership is there, story sharing, activator igniter, champion enabler. But now I've also added a creative collaborator. I haven't given up on community because the servant leadership really focuses on community. But the creative collaborator is this organic way that I build my life. So this provides you an idea of the journey I've taken. But the moment I stopped looking at what I wanted to do and started focusing on who I am, clarity emerged. And then I was able to go down a pathway that when you hit 5 out of 5, you don't have a job or career, you have fulfillment. And that's what my journey has been to this point.
Since you're a storyteller, I this what you talked about reminded me a story. Can I share?
Oh, absolutely.
There is this lecturer, author also, thinker in Turkey, shares his experiences with audience. And one of these experiences was when he was a lecturer in northern Cyprus in a university. He
Mm,
was business administration lecturer, and he was asking about marketing, sales, all this kind of stuff. But in one of the final exam, he asked only one question, and
mm,
he made people pass that test if they know the answer. And that question was, who what is the name of the cleaning lady's
yeah.
name. And like none of them knew the answer. They all went another round of exams, and after that they all of them learned about the name of that lady, and she thanked him for making her visible in her job, because she is doing a job there and she is an existing person, and nobody was caring about her. The students always going into the lessons, going
Mm.
out, doing their own job, but there are people that you could also interact with. And so your community doing also combined with lecturing also, I think, is a very valuable thing in especially university students' lives.
Yeah, no, and Cinda, you know what I do is I don't just lecture and teach my class. Uh, my class might start at 10:30. I go at 9:30, I set up. Nobody's in the room except me. Well, then all of a sudden, as students start filtering into the room, maybe, 9:45 or something like that, I actually go sit with my students and I ask them, how was your weekend? What are you working on? How are your classes going? And it's amazing that they say that it really means a lot that I got from behind a podium, which I don't never stand it behind a podium, and just came and sat down and talked to them. And it means a lot to our students when we do that.
Yes, yes, that should be the same way with every people, every lecturer in the universities, in high schools. But people have their own problems, but they sometimes can't bring them to the jobs.
Mhm.
Sometimes they all with their packages. It changes according to their times, I think. So, my second question, you mentioned five areas that form your foundation, including servant leadership and storytelling, story sharing.
Mhm.
Could you elaborate on how these concepts have shaped your approach to coaching, mentoring, and community involvement?
Sure. I think that what I found is that oftentimes people are just out of convenience going forward. I've done about 5,000 conversations to date. And oftentimes I sit down and I say, well, what's something you're not willing to compromise or give up in life and career, not just career, but life and career? And people just sit there going like, I don't know. I think what happens is think the narrative that we many people live is, and I'll use the example in our business school, for example. So let's say somebody does a their courses, but then they do a finance course, and maybe the finance course they get a really good mark, and they're like, okay, that makes sense. And then they're like, I think finance is the area I should be in, and they do more finance courses. Maybe eventually they'll do a internship or what we call a co-op term. You do three of those, so maybe at a bank, a financial institution, a venture capital firm. So you're like, yeah, okay, I could do this job. And maybe the bank comes back and says, well, as you graduate, why don't you come and be a frontline customer service rep, a teller? Because we've worked with you. So you're like, okay. So then you go and become a teller. Maybe you do that for 5 years. And after 5 years, maybe you become a supervisor of the customer service reps. But then you're like, maybe I'll switch to commercial banking. And you go to commercial banking entry level. And maybe you're there for 5 years. And maybe then you become a supervisor after 5 years. And after 5 more years, maybe you're the regional director of commercial banking. That's 25 years you've spent in that environment. But was this the right pathway? And I've had people say, oh my gosh, I don't know if this was the right pathway. It was what was convenient, and I just went down the roadway. So, what I always say is, in order to determine, and I try to catch them early, and I do this in my class and I do this in all my coaching sessions, what are the five things you're not willing to compromise in life and career? So, as you mentioned, I've got my five, but what it does is it provides an anchor point to work from. And maybe, somebody who's a recent alumni, maybe for 2 years, 3 years, they've been working as a customer service rep in a bank. Well, here's the thing. Maybe that job only hits one out of five of those five things that matters. I tell them, don't quit your job, but now you know what's missing. How can you incorporate the other things so that it enables you to focus on the next opportunity? Because maybe instead of going into commercial banking because, well, I need something new, maybe by doing the five core elements piece, all of a sudden you're like, actually, I think I might have to be in community development in banking because community is important to me. And then you find something. Now, what I tell people is how you come up with the five core elements. It's not just a matter of 5 words and you're like, okay, I'm set. It's all about introspection and reflection. In other words, look at the classes you took in university. Which ones did you like, maybe didn't like? Ask yourself, why did I like it or didn't like it? What about jobs you've had? What do you like about it, don't like about it? Why? What do you like to do in your spare time? Why? And the idea is when you keep asking yourself why, and maybe with a trusted friend, words start to emerge. Like when I often do this exercise, people say, family is so important to me. I said, why is family important? And then they start using other words and they say, well, it's my family, my circle of friends, etc. I find comfort in the connections and those relationships. And we go further down. And eventually I come back and I say, well, you mentioned connections and relationships. Is that important to you in the work environment? Oh, for sure. In school? Oh, absolutely. What about in your social circle? Oh, I have to have that. So I said, family is very sort of small and compressed here. can we expand that to include relationships and connectedness in all of the things that you do? And they're like, absolutely. The last thing I want to share with you about the five core elements piece is people are fearful. I'm making them pick five words. And they're like, yeah, but what if these are not the right words? I'm like, these words you will change as you go through life because you're going to change. So always be reflective and feel like you can change it. You don't want to change it based on career, but based on you as an individual. And that's why when I was in just recently Saudi Arabia and Seoul, and in my conversations with people, somebody brought up, you know what, you're such a creative person, not in the form of drawing and art or whatever, but they just said your reflection of life and things around you, you're creative. And out of that came creative collaborator because of
Yes.
the collaboration I do.
Mhm.
But I will share with you finally, and then we'll move on, is I've got about 20 projects I'm working on right now. All 20 hit 5 out of 5. And it's not like paint by numbers where, here's my first project, here's my second project, and they blend together like watercolors. And here's the interesting thing, of those 20 projects, none of them feel like work.
Wow. That's amazing. I wish everyone had that type of mindset. Seriously, when you have that mindset, you don't work at all.
No.
Yeah. So your involvement with Gradus One and League of Innovators is quite impressive. How do these organizations help high school, post-secondary, recent graduates in their career journey, and what impact have you seen them make in the community?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, when I transitioned from student engagement, getting students to realize you've got your academics, but what else are you building in, like the soft skills? Because employers are asking not just about GPAs, they're asking about they're not just asking about marks and grade point average. They're asking about, like, can you speak with the public? Can you analyze data? Can you be a critical thinker, communicator? So at a certain point, an individual I mentored, he came to me and he said, "Well, you've done all this work, uh, you know, to help people within that circle of places where I was working." He said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "I'd like to expand this to other educational institutions." So the two of us put our minds together and we came up with Gratis One, and a third person was involved with us as well to build it. So Gratis is Latin for step. So step one in your journey as you move forward for high school, post secondary, recent grads. What you find is in academic institutions, there's a huge emphasis on the academics and maybe support that might be there, but what Gratis One did was provided a support mechanism to layer into the work that schools are already doing. So we would do panels, we would provide insights and articles on various areas of career, personal, professional development. So we did a lot of these panels on different sectors of industry. We also put on workshops on really understanding who you are to help people generate and get into a pathway. The challenge was we were doing phenomenal work with our local communities within Vancouver, but we couldn't expand nationwide just from a budgetary standpoint. League of Innovators is an organization focused on the young entrepreneur. And what League of Innovators said is, look, the part we're missing is what Gratis One builds, which is that understanding of self and building that personal journey. So we wound up merging with the League of Innovators and we went nationwide. So League of Innovators is this idea of building entrepreneurial mindset and an option as opposed to the traditional career journey. But there's a lot of the support and idea generation community of entrepreneurs throughout Canada now as a result of League of Innovators. And the beauty of it is the fact that, what we've seen is that there's a lot of keen interest in the whole idea of entrepreneurial development in Canada, and we've been able to support that mechanism by working with the young people. And to be fair, there are many young entrepreneurial programs in Canada, and League of Innovators is one of those. So we're very proud of the work we do to inspire and engage individuals with regards to the idea of building a creative journey for themselves.
Throughout these young people's life, it's very important to have this kind of guidelines, guide people through their careers, through their life, because we don't. I remember from myself, we don't really think, wisely, perfectly about our lives ahead at the age of 70s, 18s, 20s, even 30s. You can, a lot of people changing their careers after 30s, 40s, because they find themselves, oh, I didn't like this. Why I'm
Yeah.
doing this? And yeah, having a coach, a mentor, a guide person like this is a very important thing, and you're
Mhm.
doing a great job. Thank you for that. So, storytelling seems to be a central theme in your work. How do you believe storytelling can be a powerful tool for personal and professional growth? And what advice do you have for individuals looking to enhance their storytelling skills? And also, maybe with a story, I want you to console those who go through tough times in their life, especially when we are approaching the end of one year and beginning of a new year. What would you say?
Yeah. Storytelling, I think we all have stories to share. And everybody is a living story, but they don't feel that their story is significant. I want people to realize that what they share and what they bring is part of their life and their story. So I came up with my first TEDx speech, and that was on personal storytelling and the development of how does one build a story. And I came up with a concept that I call carpe. So the five aspects that I use for storytelling is curiosity, appreciation, reflection, perspective, and experience. So curiosity is we need to go through life with a curious nature and look at it from the perspective of, we have our regular journey, our regular life, but what are we missing? And it becomes discovering the extraordinary in the ordinary. In other words, I think we go through life in autopilot, but when we start looking and focusing on other things through a curious eye, we start discovering the extraordinary. So being curious is very helpful. And then when we something stops you, you start appreciating things for more than what they are. So when you appreciate things, all of a sudden you're adding more purpose and meaning and an understanding of, well, there's something that stopped me. Reflection means now you're adding even more significance. You're thinking about this in a much more deeper and beneficial place. Perspectives, we all have perspectives and we add purpose and meaning to it. Now, the most important thing is experience. Unless we capture our story as an experience, our story dies an untimely death. I'll give you an example. And this sort of relates to what you also added about people going through, some challenging times and whatnot. So here's an example of personal storytelling and the carpe principle of curiosity, appreciation, reflection, perspectives, and experience. So I'll describe this. So here's a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. What I do is I give that single piece of a jigsaw puzzle to an individual and I say, what can you do with one piece? And they look at it and they say, well, not much. It's one piece. And I say it's ordinary, but this is what you feel like. You feel like that single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. You don't know where you fit in. You don't know the bigger picture. But I tell them, I'm going to make this extraordinary magically before your eyes. And they're looking at me like, okay, he's a magician. I'm like, no, I'm not a magician. I say, instead of the single piece, here's a satchel that I carry my puzzle pieces in. If I give you a piece of my puzzle, do you realize I cannot finish my puzzle without you? Do you realize how significant and important you are to me? Seda, I see the transformation in their face where they realize this is what they were feeling like. But because I've said this, they now realize their significance. I've given over 5,000 pieces in the world to date to remind people how important they are. And I've got people telling me that the piece is taped to their mirror. It reminds them every morning someone said that they matter. It's traveling in backpacks around the world. It's in wallets 10 years later. It People bring it out and they say it. I just want you to know that you're still with me. I've even had people who are in the deepest, darkest moments of their life tell me that, you know, they realized and they saw the puzzle piece on their table and they said, it didn't get me out of depression, but when I held it, it reminded me I was connected to you and over 5,000 people who probably care about me. Now, that's an example of taking something ordinary, making it extraordinary. And if you apply the Carpe principle to it, curiosity. So one day, I was trying to think of connectedness and I saw the puzzle piece. That's what stopped me. There's the curiosity. And what I did was I looked at a single piece of a jigsaw puzzle. So I'm appreciating it for more than, there's got to be something more than what that single piece is. So I started reflecting on it, adding more significance, purpose, and meaning to it. I brought my perspectives in about my time as a janitor where, I felt ignored and, moments that I maybe had setbacks. So there's the perspectives, but I captured it as a story and I captured it. And that's where the experience makes this into something that is so significant that anytime I'm at an event, teaching my class, meeting people randomly, I give them a piece of the puzzle. The other thing I want to share with you is people think that I live in a world of rainbows, unicorns, and cotton candy clouded world. Actually, I have real challenges. And I shared with your audience that this last April, I lost my mother. This last November, my father passed away. But you know what? I'm really at peace with myself. And people said, really, how? And I said, because look at it this way. Uh, I cannot control what happens around me. I can only control how I'm going to react. And I choose not to be pulled into a vortex. But it's easy enough to say it, but difficult to do. So I had to type up a blog post about how I deal with this. And the blog post is called Who is Knocking at the Door? And the idea behind who is knocking at the door is, think of it this way. There's a knock on your door. You go and open the door, and there's four people standing there, and you allow them to come into your space, into your house. But the four people are depression, problems, failure, and the last one is anger. Now, the thing is, they're ever present. You can't just shut the door and ignore them. But I'm surrounded by Shanti, which is peace, Pyar, love, appreciation, and gratitude. So the idea is that I'm surrounded by these four other people, but there's no room for, depression, problems, failure, and anger. But they're ever present. They're within the realm. Well, eventually anger can't get close to me, so anger gets mad and leaves in a huff, leaves angry. But the moment anger leaves, all of a sudden, Shanti and Pyar, peace and love, talks to depression. They're not there to fix depression, but let's try to reignite those embers. Appreciation and gratitude talk to failure and say maybe you're not going far enough. Maybe failure, sorry, talks to problems and say maybe you're not going far enough. Maybe problems leads to opportunities. Maybe you're missing the opportunities. And failure, maybe really you're not a failure. Maybe it's setback and you need to work with those opportunities. And together you two can build magic. So this is how I go through life, is the fact that those four figures are ever present: depression, problem, failure, and anger. I can't ignore them, but I'm surrounded by such positivity, which I've created this space, love, appreciation, gratitude, that I can deal with these things as they emerge. And I can deal that's why the 20 projects that I thoroughly love and work with, the people around me, the stories, people like you who come into my life, you provide me joy. Like that's how I can deal with it.
Yeah. Well, this ancient wisdom type of bringings, like from Indian
Hmm.
wisdom, from our Anatolian wisdom, always light, through our lives. And
Yeah.
yeah, in our tough times, we need that also. I lost my
Yeah.
father 10 years ago. I can understand
Mm.
what you've been through. It's not an easy thing to lose a very loved one. But as you said, we cannot control what's happening, and we can only control our perspectives. But the key thing is, I think, to go through the grief, the anger, everything, every emotion we go through, then we are okay with them. If we
Yeah.
just sweep them under the rug, it doesn't work. It's
Mm.
just make it even worse.
Yeah.
I've done that. I know from the experience. So my next question, you had the opportunity to speak regionally, nationally, and internationally. Can you share a memorable experience or a
Mm.
valuable lesson you've learned through your international speaking engagements that has influenced your work or perspective? Or it can be an analogy already
Yeah.
you shared with this puzzle.
Yeah. No, I just got back from Saudi Arabia. I spoke at Liwas, and it's a beautiful organization that looks at empowering women. And I shared with them the concept of care. In other words, do you care? The idea of care is collaboration, adaptability, resilience, and empathy. Four words that I think are so important in society right now. And I include how we build care into our society, into our lives as individuals and organizations. I think the idea behind it is the fact that we have an opportunity to share. And in Saudi Arabia, just all I had was nothing but appreciation and gratitude from the people around me, which has led to more opportunities to speak. And I'll be back in the region, in the Gulf region, possibly. And I love the word inshallah, to go speak again in the future. But the idea is coming up with that concept that resonates, but speaking with it not from a standpoint of data and analytics, but just the fact that it comes from within. I've been given so much in life, but there's a need for me to just give it away, to share. And that's what I do in life.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. My last question is, in your list of specialties, you mentioned community consultation and community involvement. Could you provide an example of successful community project or initiative you've been a part of, and what role you played in making it successful, and what motivates you to engage with communities in this way?
I think the simplest way for me to describe it is the realization that I've been given so much in life, and so many nonprofits run their nonprofit just in a traditional method that is not sustainable. So what I do is I spend time with them to try to come up with uh, entrepreneurial. I want them to become more entrepreneurial and creative in their thinking. And any sort of organization, we sit down and talk. Now, some of the organizations get it, and the idea is they want to have the opportunity to start shifting and motivating and changing. Others find it maybe a little bit difficult. So the idea is that there was a nonprofit I'm actually working with right now, SMD School in Nepal. They have the some of the most difficult, the remotest villages in Nepal. These students get their education for free. So I facilitated and created a program which my students here at Simon Fraser University are running to support and mentor these young people in business to be entrepreneurial in their ideas. So this is one that's just running right now that we is very successful. But as mentioned, I've worked with about 50 nonprofits, and my whole aspect is, rather than being a bystander in life, I want to roll up my sleeves and I want to activate and support. I've been given a purpose, and I have to be there to use what's been given to me as resources and tools to help other organizations, but also individuals in their journey.
Yeah, we haven't talked about your books, but you talked about the categories, the tools that you're using in your books
Mhm.
also. For our audience, if you would like to learn more about Sam Tahir and his perfect tools. You can check his books. Also you are working on a new book. What is it
Yes.
about?
The third book I'm working on is about how do you find your first job. It's for high school, post secondary, international students because there's not a lot of resources available. So I'm collaborating with a recruiter and a student. So we've got the whole 360-degree angle looking at how do we support someone getting a job? Does the book guarantee you getting a job? Absolutely not. But what it does is it provides you a competitive advantage because the tools we're providing you are the tools that you need in order to succeed in even getting that first job. And how do you move forward from that job?
Yeah, I think it's very important to talk about or think about this kind of pathways through
Mhm.
our careers from the age of 8, 7, I don't know,
Yep.
10, 12. When I look at my daughters, my
Mhm.
older daughter talks about she wants to be an architect since she's 7 years old, and we are providing her the tools that
Mhm.
she can deal with the architectural design
Yeah.
things and see if she really, really wants this. And it takes 10,000 hours for one to
Yes.
be educated and be master of that type of
Yeah.
subject, whatever you are talking about or you're working on. And at the age of 16, if she changed her perspective through architecture,
Yeah.
she already got this kind of tools that she knows what makes her happy, what she enjoys the most, and what she can do with her life.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter she completely throw this subject away. She can come up with the one that she really, really enjoys at that age, and it might change at the age of
Yeah.
25, 35. We don't know, but
Yes.
you get this kind of exercise in
Yes.
whatever you like, whatever you don't like also it's important.
Yep.
So you don't choose a very bad pathway for yourself at the beginning
Right.
of the university.
Yeah.
In Turkish education this is very unhealthy that we choose our careers at the age of 17. Until
Yeah.
then we just don't know about it, we don't
Yep.
talk to the professions that people, or we don't get into the job environment, we don't know anything about it, we just want to be a doctor. Or, do I
Yeah.
really enjoy being in the hospitals dealing
Yeah.
with the patients? Is it really my thing? No, we don't know. It is the highest point, so I should go there. But
Yeah.
no, you can use your potential more creatively, more. If it is not your thing, you need
Yeah.
to know about it before it. So this kind of topic is very valuable for the
Yes.
younger people. I hope it will translate it into Turkish after it's published.
I hope so.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sam, for your valuable, insightful informations and conversation today. I would like to share my email address. If any other coaches and mentors would like to be my guests in the future, this was our last 5 o'clock tea talk for this year. We are continuing in 2024. It is dot Tekeci, Tekeci, at the coachmagazine.com. You can write to me or you can visit our website thecoachmagazine.com. You can subscribe to our magazines, or if you would like to contribute to our magazine as a writer, please write to us, connect with us from our Instagram, LinkedIn and YouTube channels also. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for being here. It was a very nice conversation for me.
Shukran, and I appreciate the opportunity to share. And if somebody walks away with a little piece of insights, it makes my day.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a new day for you. It's almost the end of the day for us. Have a lovely day. See you.
Thank you.